Hello and welcome to Vox Markets. I am John Hewman and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Jackie Daniell, Group CEO of fast-growing software company Crimson Tide. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on. So you recently released some results which were ahead of already upgraded forecasts. Really impressive stuff. We're going to talk about those in some detail, but before we do that, perhaps could you introduce yourself and Crimson Tide and what it does?
Okay, sure. Well, as you said, I'm Jacqueline Daniell. I am the current CEO of Crimson Tide. I said current only because, not that I'm planning to go anywhere, but because I joined the company just over 2 years ago as a non-executive director. And I became executive last year, taking on the position of Group CEO, really because I have got a background and hopefully a bit of a track record in growing companies and helping them make this step change that Crimson Tide is currently in. So what is Crimson Tide? Well, Crimson Tide provides a product called Empro 5. It's its own product. It's a software as a service, so a subscription software for enterprise businesses in quite a range of business sectors. The principal ones are in facilities management. So more and more situations really where we provide sensor-driven actions, turning IoT products, so things like sensors and cameras, into smart solutions. We're also in retail in quite a big way, in transport, and like I said, a range of other sectors, but those are the key ones. And the software is about workflow management, automation, providing reports, alerts. It integrates with any other existing business management software the company has. And back in April 2021, we took part in a successful fundraise to invest for growth and make some substantial investments going forward in order that the company could grow and serve more of those enterprise businesses.
Well, that growth is certainly coming through. 30% sales growth last year really sort of suggests that strategy is really starting to pay off. Can we talk about the results, particularly the revenue model and how it works? I understand it's a high proportion of recurring subscriptions and a very high margin as well.
Yes, that's right. So it very much emulates a traditional SaaS business in that respect. So monthly recurring revenue is the bulk of our revenue. Typically, subscription contracts are 3 years. Some are much longer, some are up to 5 years. And they're very low churn because as well as software as a service, it also comes what we say with a service. So we call it software with a service. So this is where we can discuss the business needs. We can grow with our customer businesses. We operate what we call a land and expand strategy. So we'll come in with perhaps 1 or 2 point solutions that the customer has asked for, and then help them because they very quickly realize that they require more than that. So there's much opportunity for upsell, and that makes us very, very sticky. So our annualized recurring revenue has actually increased by 51%. And like I say, it's because of those lengthy contracts and the fact that we're very sticky.
Yeah. And presumably then you're selling, as you say, more services to more clients. So each account gets bigger over time, I presume, as well.
Yeah, that's the plan, and that's generally what happens. Absolutely. And then once you're in, it's very hard to get out because the business needs all of that, necessary reporting. It's all about data and reports. So yeah, that's basically how that operates.
Data is what powers business in the modern age. It sounds like your product is very well positioned there.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you've invested very heavily this year, and obviously in the latest results there was a small loss which reflects that. But can you tell us what you've been doing on the investment side in terms of product development, scaling the business, and expanding geographically?
Certainly. So we're investing for growth. So we've invested in our product development, including the IoT that I've just talked about, just mentioned there. We've made investments in the US, so we've opened an office in North America, operates there. And we've made investments in marketing more generally, including a partner strategy and growing a partner acquisition pipeline. And we've also invested in our internal structures for scaling and streamlining. So I would say the biggest single part of that investment to date has been in the product itself. And this has been across a number of areas, mostly in upgrades, very significant upgrades. So for example, what we fondly refer to as the back end. So the client-side web application has been completely upgraded. And that's a very large and a very significant piece of work. And it's allowed us to do a lot of other things. It means that the framework, the Ionic framework, is now much more powerful for our in-house developers, and it allows them to write development code across the whole platform. So a single development code across the whole platform. And that Ionic framework is now the basis for the front end, the mobile app platform upgrade, which is being rolled out this year. But it's also, as well as upgrading and the investment made, in the product that way, it's also allowed us to be very innovative. Our whole product team have been working very hard, doing a lot of research and development, and we have re-engineered our IoT backend for enterprise. And what does that mean? Well, what's the consequences of that then, or the impact? That allows us to scale. So there'll be no constraints in being able to leverage relationships with people quite significant, like Cisco Meraki. So some people may have seen the fairly recent announcement at the beginning of the year that we'd done our first deal in the United States with Cisco Meraki. Now, up until this point, with no problem, obviously, but we've been supporting hundreds of IoT products. So when I say IoT projects, I mean things like sensors and cameras at any one time, and that's all fine. But this re-engineered IoT backend means that we'll be able to support thousands and thousands going forward, probably unlimited a number. And that's quite important for things like that Cisco Meraki deal, and more recently, the NHS deal. And then Project Titan, in the product, that is the project name of our automation engine and the replacement of that. So that's the really clever bit. And the idea there is that will not only allow us to maintain our margin, but possibly improve it even further, but it will also give us an opportunity to upsell that automation engine to other customers that don't have it as well. So a lot of investment and a lot of time and work has gone into the product, which is definitely, we're starting to see that in the results. We also invested in a version of the product that was particularly appropriate for slightly smaller businesses. So we have businesses at the top end who are having basically lines and lines and lines of code from us, and then ones that are quite small, that might be lifestyle company or something like that.
This is the B Pro product, is it?
This is the B Pro project. Yeah. So we developed this project that was really targeted at those kind of nano businesses. And we marketed that for a short time during the end of last year. And what's happening now is that has a very clean and a very current UI UX, and that is now being used as the mobile front end for our enterprise customers. And we're also using the same app analytics going forward to monitor usage across the platform. So the benefits that we saw in developing the product so that it was specifically appropriate for smaller businesses is also benefiting those larger businesses as well. So quite a lot has gone on there with the product.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think, am I right in thinking that your predecessor has has stepped back into leading that product development role.
Indeed.
So really, really, you've got a dream team at the top, as it were.
Absolutely, absolutely. He can really focus and immerse himself in that product development and that product research. He's got quite a few years behind him with the company and knows the customer base very well. Can almost tell them what they're going to need going forward before they know it. But yes, that is an immense advantage for Empro 5 and Crimson Tide in general, because yeah, we've got a product director who basically knows the product well, is continuing to develop it and take it forward into the future.
Yes, it's fantastic. Can we talk a little bit more about the US? I mean, this is a huge market, as you mentioned. You've signed your first deal there. The partnership strategy is underway there. Can you talk about the sort of the scale of that opportunity and perhaps sort of manage investors' expectations of what we can expect from the US growth?
Yeah, well, like everybody knows, the land of opportunity and all that. I think you have to remain. It's important to remain focused. We have done very well in the US thus far. We set up the office in Raleigh, the state capital of North Carolina. Basically, it is a relatively small sales and marketing hub based there, supported by our UK team entirely. And at the very beginning of the year, we secured a deal with Cisco Meraki. And this deal is in their head office at San Francisco. And the purpose of that deal is kind of twofold. First and foremost for us, it is a showcase, not only for Cisco Meraki sales team to be able to sell from, because they have their own IoT products, so their own sensors and their own cameras, operating with the Empro 5 visualization of that. So they're able to sell a whole package. So not only is it a showcase for Cisco Meraki sales teams, but their partners' sales teams and their partners' sales teams. And there is an opportunity for us going forward that showcase could be rolled out to the other Cisco Meraki offices all over the world, including New York, Sydney, Atlanta, London, etc. So quite recently, the team there have been busy with that deployment, Empro 5 Smart Building Solution. And like I said, Empro 5 is being used in this instance to visualize the building's sensor data. So there are sensors recording all sorts of things all over Cisco Meraki's head office. So things like temperature, humidity, noise, air quality, number of door openings, room usage, a myriad of things. And the Empro 5 dashboard is set up for their teams to have access to not just a whole load of data, but actually smart actions as a result of that data. So for instance, they have floor plan dashboards where rooms can light up red when they need cleaning because the sensor has said this room, these toilet facilities, for example, have been used to this level. The cleaning schedule hasn't been increased, so I'm going to send a notification to the cleaner on this floor to divert from her standard schedule or his standard schedule to clean this set of rooms. So it's all about using operations efficiently as a result of what the data is saying. So very much about sensor-driven actions.
Yeah, I mean, Internet of Things could produce a lot of data, I guess, making sense of it. Avoiding drowning in data is what you're helping companies do. Can we talk about the trends that are supporting your growth? So obviously the Internet of Things is becoming a huge thing, particularly as you mentioned in the case of sort of smart building management. But can we talk about some of the other trends that are driving your growth, perhaps regulation, efficiency, those sort of things?
Yeah, I think they've always driven a certain amount of growth. I think probably in the last couple of years, more and more companies are waking up to the fact that there is a need for technology to help them with data and reporting. Every business has a need for efficiencies, which is what we primarily can help with. I think ESG reporting is taking off now in a big way, where companies really do need technology for help with that, even if it's to establish a baseline. When I was out in the States recently, I was quite shocked by the number of facilities management companies who were excited merely about knowing what their baseline was, having a benchmark, let alone all the improvements that we can offer going forward from that baseline. Compliance, so regulation and audit will always be, a priority for most companies. And I think a lot of it is driven by the prolific use now of IoT hardware. And it's no good having all that hardware and all that data unless you can produce some smart solutions, some smart actions as a result of that data.
Yeah, yeah. And this is all translating into a pipeline, a sales pipeline at record levels. Can you give us a flavour of what that looks like and sort of how that's going to pan out as you convert that?
Yeah, well, that's continued to grow. At the end of 21, I think the pipeline was then about 180,000. By the half year, it had risen to something like 330. And at the end of last year, it closed at 420, and it's continuing to rise this year. So we're seeing pipeline growth from across the sectors, basically, and a speeding up in the pipeline velocity. But what's pleasing for me to see is, although that's happening, we're able to keep that pipeline quite well stocked, even with losses and deal wins. It's still a growing pipeline. We're no longer generating sort of what I refer to always as random leads, measuring MQLs, etc. It's really targeted, qualified accounts with an ideal customer profile. So the pipeline is very strong. And it comes from our marketing material. It comes from a lot of referral by our clients and our former clients. So we have a net promoter score of 30, which is excellent. So that's the likelihood that a client is to recommend you to another. Obviously, we have the usual organic searches and digital searches, paid for searches, and we have a lot of partner referrals. So all in all, that makes it a very strong and growing pipeline.
Yeah, yeah. Something that investors always keep an eye on. Good to hear. Within that pipeline, you mentioned earlier you'd also picked up your first contract with the NHS, which is presumably a potentially huge customer, certainly an organisation that needs lots of efficiencies to really deliver the service it needs for the UK.
Yes, yeah. We've been in the NHS in a relatively smaller way for quite some time, and that's more around compliance. So what the NHS refer to as their 50-point check. But this recent deal is really about combining that with compounding with other algorithms, so the ones I've just described, like IoT and estates management, so healthcare estates. So combining their compliance with facilities management almost is the first time that they're going to have been able to do that. And that is potentially huge. Yes, absolutely. And of course, gives them, a greater amount of efficiency and smart solutions, which we'll hope to see the benefit of in the coming months and years. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic contract, fantastic bit of technology. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's as I say, a really, really great business, and I can see how it's going to only grow from here. Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you very much indeed.